Om Shanti. This is a recording of Pre-ordainment, recorded from Inner Space in Romford, and wanted really to explain the benefits of being in a preordained drama of life. Some people see this as very negative, in the sense of preordainment could mean having no choice in the drama, where your hands are tied and everything is already mapped out for you, rather than what they say in the Bible as God gave us freedom of choice. So this preordainment thing was very much the first telltale signs I heard of this was when I was a child, when one of my aunts was driving in a part of Devon in England, and she, before we actually reached where we were heading, she saw the name of the pub that was round the next corner, and she'd never been there before. So it was what people talk about as a déjà vu, whereby something is seen before it actually is seen. So it's actually seen from the information that's inside of the consciousness before it actually is seen in reality, or so-called reality, because that's the way we view things, that what we actually see and hear personally, what we experience in a physical way, is reality, and that everything else is a non-reality. And there was a chap called Shankaracharya, who's an Indian, a teacher in India of a spiritual nature, and he said that everything that we see of this world is an illusion. And someone countered that by saying that then that the person that's saying this is also illusion, so why should we listen to an illusion? So basically it comes down to what is reality and what is non-reality, what is a person's real life and what is illusion. So I remember when she named the actual pub that we were passing by, and it was a couple of miles away in the distance, and there was bends and twists and turns, and she couldn't possibly have known what was coming up, and she'd never been to that part of Devon at all. In fact, never been to any part of Devon before, but she actually picked up or processed this information before the eventuality took place, which is the same regarding premonitions. When people have a premonition of something that happens, and there's no way that they could have that knowingness, where a person has been told that if you ever go out in the snow, then that will be your final going out in this life. And the person had a crisis, an emergency, in which they had to go out, and when they did go out in the snow to drive their sick wife to hospital, then that was the last trip that they ventured on, because at that point in time they had an accident and both the husband and wife died in the snow. So many premonitions do come true, many premonitions don't come true. What is reality? What is non-reality? And you can only put your point of view, or what you actually bought into regarding what you believe in. And I do very much believe in a preordained drama that's going on, whereby things are actually meant to happen. They're ordained, preordained. They're ordained to happen. So this world, which is going through a particular scenario, and various scenarios worldwide, is actually will come to an end, and we will reach a new time period which we come to, and everything really is only as real as when it comes in front of you. And once it's past, as the Bible very often says, it came to pass, which means everything that is happening is just a series of events that is passing by. Now, lots of people don't like preordainment because it suggests that their hands are tied, and no one can actually put anything else in there to change its eventuality. Well, the reason why I do like this is because when you tie it in with what your true nature is, which is how you enjoy to be, peace, love, harmony, compassion, the reality and the false reality is the reality has a lot of wonder, beauty, magic, and the non-reality is just stress points that we go through. So we actually have this true nature, this pure nature inside of us, and then we're taught to be critical, condescending, and then we go through that phase. Not only are we taught to be critical, condescending, and defamatory of others, which is a phase that we go through, but we also teach that to others as a mistake. But is there any such thing as a mistake when all you do really is come back to your origin, which is goodness? So that's why we say thank goodness. We never say thank badness. We say thank goodness because we come back to a state of goodness. And at the present time I'm baking some bread, and for me to enjoy the bread I have to involve in the action of making the bread. So therefore, if I was to say it's all preordained and my hands are tied, then I wouldn't involve in the action to enjoy the bread. So consequently, preordainment is a very beneficial thing when you actually have that realization that everything I do that's positive will be preordained in a positive way. So the outcome will be according to the positive consciousness. So what the main problem with preordainment that people have is that as if they're not a part of it, as if someone put us in this situation to experience so much gloom and doom, and nothing that we do will change that. Well, if I think like that, for example, if I think if it's preordained that the bills are paid, then I would just be sitting on my hands and not doing anything to make that happen. So you're actually making it and shaping it, but that's all preordained as well, because at that moment in time we were meant to have this insight to realize that what we do as adding the ingredients to the cake, adding the ingredients to the bread mix, adding the ingredients to the drama in a positive way will make things be connected in a positive outcome. So you're always working in a positive way. If I go to work today because it's preordained in the drama, then it's meant to be that way. I would actually not have the positive ingredients for the positive outcome. And let's just say, imagine that there's a lot of negative ingredients within that, because there's been a lot of jealousy and anger and arrogance and greed and all the negative things that we don't like when we see in others. Then I can always change that by adding the positives. So if I see something or have seen something in a negative light, I can now improve a different attitude, a different vision, a different mindset. So if the illness of the body, if the financial situation, if my relationships, the situation of my relationships have come to this point and are preordained to be like that so far, then I only have to learn my lessons very well and add the positive ingredients, the things that inspire. If I have bad relationships with others, it must be because I've been inspiring the negatives within those relationships. So let me inspire the positive, virtuous things or in that relationships. Let's supposing that the people don't even want to talk to me, don't want to come near me, have cut me off, then let me not have that negative towards those people, because it still is reaching them. We may not think so. We may think that only what we say to them and what they hear is what's reaching them, and they have to be in the same room as us for it to reach them. But that's not true, because my best wishes, my good feelings towards them, my good feelings about them when I'm sitting with others, that is still reaching them. So any negatives, even though they're not in the same room as me, those positives will still reach them. So let's see if it's based on my neediness of them, because I'm in bondage to that relationship. Then let me heal that relationship by not actually thinking of them, but sending out good wishes to the soul rather than the role that they're playing. Each soul plays a role. When we become needy, that means we're subservient to a particular service they've been providing for us in their role. So let me still send out good wishes to them and remove my own neediness and take my own neediness from my own goodness, from God's goodness, because these are the two things that heal, not just my own goodness, but the goodness that's in God as well. Let me sit in remembrance of the virtues of the source of peace and the source of love, and that will always also reach these people around me that I'm in need of, or maybe people are in need of me. Excuse me. The cushion was pushing me out another foot, so I had to correct that. So it's now preordained that I'm going to correct that. So if I'm needy, or if others are in need of me, and it's becoming a little bit of a burden, let me untie my remembrance of them away and focus it on the goodness, the strengths inside the self, the qualities inside the self, the qualities that are in God, because God's the battery charger of the soul. What He has is what I need. That's also a preordained thing as well, and a very interesting subject, because there are 5 main vices, main weaknesses in every single human soul on the planet. And these 5 vices that people have, some think they're good, but they're actually damaging to a divine consciousness. The 5 vices are lust, anger, ego, greed, and attachment. Some people recognize some as bad and other of those vices, 1 or 2 of them as good, but they're all negative. That means they all make you play a very superficial role, a very superficial image of yourself gets projected. That becomes accepted by society, but is in actual fact creating a lot of insecurity. So we repair our inferiorities with a feeling of being superior. Nothing to do with yourself, only of your role. So that's also preordained. But when you recognize all the 5 vices are negative to you, and a negative so-called attribute to your own personality, your own persona, your own presence, your own beauty, and then you're able to understand that those 5 vices are making us look outside. When we've got this inner strength, which is the illusion, a negative inner strength, we start to look at what others are doing, or continue to look at what others are doing, what the world is doing to us, because those 5 main vices of lust, ego, anger, greed and attachment make us look on what others are doing to us. So it's the them of the outside that are doing this to us. So when those 5 vices are set aside, you'll see a process happening which hasn't really happened yet, where people stop blaming everyone else and stop blaming the drama of life, the outside, and they reach this pivotal point in history where there's nothing but fear, because the natural calamities will be increasing and the world catastrophes will be increasing, and it will come on our doorstep as well. And there's just be the self looking at the self and not promoting blame, not actually saying that it's them that has to change, it's the drama that has to go my way. No, you start to actually have this self-realization. Some have come to that point already where they didn't like their own fears, their own insecurities and their own neediness, recognized they couldn't get it from others, and made it preordained that it would start to come my way again, because it's already in situ, it's already inside. Logical really, isn't it? Because self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-belief, you couldn't get that from anyone else, because that would make you in bondage to everyone else. It has to come from the self. And when it comes as a feeling from being a child of God, then there's the feeling of being protected. So you're no longer looking for protection in the external way, because you're manifesting it in an internal way. So if the world falls apart around you, then I, the self, as the eternal soul, even if a bullet hits the centre of the forehead, even though I, the soul, am in the centre of the forehead, I would just relinquish the physical form and move on. And there'd be that level of stability, because security isn't even reliable with the physical body. The physical body's time will run out. So preordainment is basically, you're not actually trying to change the world or anyone else to suit you. You're actually seeing it as a pre-written drama in which I'm changing myself and adjusting to the external. I'm not asking the external to write my future, create my fortune. I'm writing my own fortune by using my own inner intrinsic powers. So within every being, if you like, which is the entity, the spiritual, metaphysical, the non-physical form is here. The physical form that you see is here, and it gets connected to the I of the body, the my, which is mother, father, sisters, brothers of the physical, creates complete biasness when it comes to discrimination and judgment. But I'm not processing that anymore. I'm processing the I of the soul and my intrinsic powers of tolerance, accommodation, which can accommodate whatever comes along when it's asking me, when the drama of life is asking me to make noise with the mouth, to retaliate, to speak of things of revenge. I'm saying, no, this is my ego being crunched, and my ego is something that I'm removing now, and I'm replacing it with self-worth, self-value, self-beauty, dignity, divinity, and morality. So with these inner powers, I'm dealing from inside with whatever comes. Remember, there's only the moment, this moment that I'm dealing with. Nothing's going on. People carry their anger and their fears around with them, but nothing's going on in this moment. If in this moment I choose to tune into the news of the outside world, and I see things of great fear going on in the outside world, it's really nothing to do with the outside world. It's how I feel in my inside world. So there is such a thing as preordainment, but it doesn't rule us. We create it. Yes, it's already written, but also the ingredients are written of what I need to know to make and shape it so it's preordained in a high way. A highway, like a road, a very high up, a high way of doing things. So you're actually shaping and making the story's end. It is a happy ending because all human souls return to their most peaceful, happy state, but they have to go through a state of sorrow with their virtues, using their virtues to create happiness to counter the sorrow. And if you're not countering the sorrow with your own virtues, then it's just not your time yet. The time of the outside world has to escalate to make the human being look inside and not outside. So everyone does have their time preordainment was normally seen as a negative, but there are thousands of deja vus to prove that we go through an eternal cycle that repeats identically. And I've just come to this point in time where I'm wearing the costume of Andrew again, but that's not my name, that's the body's name of the role that I've acquired. So even this body is not mine to use and abuse as I wish. Just because God's not looking, it doesn't mean to say that you can use the body in a way that adds to the vices of lust, ego, greed, attachment. Because if you use the body even whilst no one's looking, I still carry that load of sorrow because I'm increasing my relationship with the vices for pleasure and happiness. And that is will come to meet and greet us later. So the sooner I use my virtues to counter everything, it is only that you're doing. As soon as you counter sorrow, it improves your state of happiness, your state of liberty, your state of freedom. So there's no loss when you're using virtues, because virtues changed to vices, and now vices are being changed back to virtues. And this is why people ask God for happiness, because they're affected by the impurity of their vices. The truth hurts, but the truth will set you free. So as soon as you're facing these negatives, you're facing them with your virtues. There's nothing wrong with facing negative as long as you don't feel negative about it. It should feel very rewarding that you're using something of your own values and your own abilities and your own virtues to counter the negativity. Whatever I see in anyone else is also in me. So if I see the beauty in them, if I can't see a virtue but I look for the virtue, you'll connect to their virtue that's inside of you. Just like when we see deities and angels, and when we see someone that even on TV, when we see someone that's really good and really wonderful, very charitable, we actually connect to the charity that's inside of ourselves. When we see the negatives, we connect to the things that we've acquired over birth and rebirth. When we talk of preordainment, it means, and this is the real mind-blowing fact that took me a while to get my head around, is that I've come to speak to you now from this body that I was in, which I was also in the last cycle, to impart this knowledge to you. I had this knowledge imparted to me this cycle. I had it the last cycle, I'll have it the next cycle, because it's an identical preordained drama where there's an immense amount of happiness and a small amount of sorrow at the end, but the sorrow is quite intense. But because it's happening as a preordained drama to teach me, become the instrument to bring back my original state of glory, then I'll never get more than I can handle, because it can only come back what I put out, and because we are good, we won't put out that amount of bad, and so the bad that comes back will be handled by our good. So I never really called Raj Yoga or the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University the path of happiness, but I call it the path to happiness, because you're using the success of the past cycle to enhance the beauty and the wonder of the success at this cycle. You're not bringing the failure forward with you now. You're processing the success story. And everyone wants to be a success story, and the drama is and does end in success. But the signs that people look at in a superficial way will make them feel a state of collapse inside. That's also necessary, because they have to go through the pain barrier of that, still not getting more than they can handle, before they come out the other side. And the other side is the happy ending, which is what we're creating now. It has to be in a world of sorrow. Heaven was created from hell. Heaven is a state of consciousness. So the heaven on earth that they talk about in the Bible, of the Adam and Eve in the Christian scriptures, and also the Lakshmi and Narayan period of time of perfect men and perfect women, will materialize later on earth, but it will materialize first through a golden consciousness that removes the alloy of the past negativity. You can only feel weak, really, if you feel that they're your weaknesses. They're not. They were just acquired. It's a preordained cycle. You're the hero actor playing a hero role, not blaming the outside for anything, but countering everything with your patience, your tolerance, your pure love, not attached love, pure love, your egoless state, your self-worth, your own cooperative, gentle, generous state of being. So I hope this hasn't added to any kind of confusion. If there was confusion there, I hope this relinquished a lot of confusion, because you're not sitting on your hands doing nothing, and if you do, then no effort, no luck, as they say. Om Shanti. We'll now do some meditation to finish off with. Thank you for tolerating this talk today. Hope it wasn't too taxing. The world in which I live in is my inner world. The outer world is constantly moving, constantly a roller coaster of upwards and downwards, side to side. But I connect to my inner world that is separate to the physical body, the role that I play. And as a being, as a soul, I came into this body naked, separate and strong, with powerful energy, and I summon up the energy from all the negative values that I valued, and take the energy back within a central core of my being, at the center of the forehead, which is the center of my consciousness, which is the world that I live in. I don't live outside, but I live within. It is the eye of the storm of the outside world, where good and bad, high and low, ill and good health exists. But I am here in the stillness of time, where there is no time, but this moment, this present time that I exist within. My mind doesn't have to think much of the outside world because it is resting in a state of stillness, patience, and presence. I am the being that will only think of doing when I think of the physical costume that connects me to the many dramas of the outside world. History was just one thing after another, but the history of myself, the being of love, the being of peace, the being of light, was just the history of moving from happiness and love to a little despair, but out the other side of the darkness. I don't hold on to darkness when I am aware of being light, separate to matter, because darkness is only the absence of my light, and how I see everything of this drama is through my eyes of light. My manifestation of my light of love that is for everyone comes through the light that I see through. The peace that I share with everyone comes from the light of peace that I see through. I am that light, so it is easy to see others in the same light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Om Shanti.